the Japan undersea mine. Underneath Japan, if you go down there really deep, there used to be oil wells out front in the curve of Japan. And there's this little thing in there. And I forget, like 15,000 feet under the ground or somewhere way, way, way down there, deep, there was this giant coal mine, coal seam. And underneath it, I think, was something else. I forget. It's 120 feet. 120 feet or 200 feet in some sections or something, or 500 feet in some sections, where it is, it was this giant, huge, like 60-foot tall or 100-foot tall coal seam underneath Japan. It's the size of the island, like literally from the whole island chain. I mean, sorry, it's the size of the whole island chain. Like literally from one side of the island chain to the other side was this ginormous, huge coal seam. It was all coal and some copper and some other minerals down there. Huge. But it also had a lot of oil in there. So the first thing we did was we put down these oil rigs, 3 or 4 of them in a row, and we sucked out the oil. We drilled down and we tapped it and we sucked it out. Then for the last 500, it's a 3,000-year-old mine. For the last, or 150,000, 1,200-year-old mine or something. Then for the last, like couple hundred years, like 300 years, they've been mining it. And it actually goes out into the shelf quite a ways too. You know where there's that little bump, the drop? This 23 feet. That's the amount of coal that that's how far it goes. Basically, all the way out there underneath the ocean. And it's down there like 15,000 feet or 20,000 feet. It's way deep in the ground. So anyway, so they went and they excavated the whole thing until it's just on pillars. And I think they might have put some steel reinforcement things or something like that. And they did it some way. Like I said, England took part in the study. They went down there and checked it out. Germany went down there and checked it out. This is like a couple hundred years ago. They checked it out and did a study on it, basically, because it's so big, and there was copper and some other stuff down there too. Anyway, there's this giant, like 120-foot tall coal seam. Goes out. It goes from one side of the island chain all the way across to the other side. And they're wondering, well, how they get it? How they get it all? So anyway, so they dug it out, and they were doing underwater mining, and then I think they decided that they can because there's all these tubes because the tubes got twisted and broke off. It was a long time ago when we actually did it, so the metallurgy wasn't so good and stuff like that. So when they were drilling for sucking out the oil, and like I say, you could actually look up into the ceiling, and there's even video of it. I saw it. And you could count the tubes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you could see the tubes sticking through the floor, and it's like those tubes go 23,000 feet or 300 feet. And I think it's 23,000. I think it is, or 15,000 feet, all the way down to this coal seam, and they excavated it all out. And then, and they excavated underneath the China portion of it. And I think it keeps going halfway underneath China, or at least a third of the way underneath China. So, anyway, England and Germany both agreed on the fact that it was going to collapse within the next 500 years, no matter what we did. The weight and everything, it would settle eventually. So, what they decided to do, I think they decided to do, is fill it with sand. And the idea was, I think, is they filled it with sand, and then they would blow the supports, and then hopefully the island would settle down evenly. I forget how they dropped it. Anyway, they're thinking about maybe airbags or something like that. It's like, it's an island though. Anyway, it's literally the size from one side of the island chain to the other side, or somewhere, or some portion of. It's huge. You can go down there and you can see the thing. Anyway, I think they filled it full of sand or something like that, and then water. And the idea was when they blew the supports, it would just go bloosh down. And I think the point was what they were going to do is they want to mine the rest of it, but the seam is so big, and when it comes down, it'll kill all the workers and everything else like that. And there was some other leaking problems. It was actually leaking inside there. Because there's actually caverns and all kinds of other stuff. There's a lot of mining up in there. I mean, we went down to this coal seam a couple different ways. There's like 3 mines, I think, going down there from the island. Anyway, it's this giant. I called it my dome. A long time ago, I was like, "It's my dome," and I think we even built something down there. There was a building down there too. I think because I was like, "I want to put a building in here. Let's put a building in here. Come on." So I think they actually had a building in there. I'm not sure, but this temple or something like that. I'm not exactly sure if they built the temple or not. But I called it my dome because it was my coal dome, and and they were going to leave it alone. But then as time goes on, it's like, well, we might as well mine it and use it up. I mean, it's so huge. It was like 23 feet tall, or 100 feet tall in some places, of just solid coal. It's like that's a lot of coal, man. Yeah, it was a lot. Anyway, so they were mining it the last 3,000 years. The last 3,000, it was discovered like 3,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago. They've been mining it for a good 300, 400 years. And it's just huge. They found copper in there. I think they found a little bit of gold. They found a lot of stuff in there. And it's just like they're strip mining. They were strip mining underneath the island. That's why all the earthquakes and stuff. So I forgot about that. They were strip mining underneath the island. And then I think they filled it full of sand and they were ready. And they started to mine the other side. And then side B of that is where they convert all the things into they go deep into China, and then they start digging down and they start getting the coal seam from this side. And then what they were going to do is leave a blast wall. I think the idea was they were going to leave like half a mile or something of blast wall. So if it did suddenly decide to come down, boom, it hits that wall and acts as a cushion or something like that. It's like, are you crazy? It's like, yeah. Well, if it comes down, I mean, the shock wave from the whole island, because it's literally like it's 3 island chains. Like if you went to Germany and you asked them, or went to England, they could probably tell you about it. Or China, it's probably on the deep records of China. It's a 3,000-year-old coal mine that just never. They're like, it's not going to run out. Like they just kept digging down, down, down. It's like, it's solid coal. It's like, yep. Solid coal. Just, it's one of those ancient undersea things or something like that. It's ancient. It's hundreds or thousands of years old. Anyway, so basically they decided to drop it, I guess, and then they would move to side B, which is mining the China side. But then coal prices kind of, I was like, we might as well mine it because I mean, I also had the Ireland coal mine, and there's also a coal mine in England. The coal turned out to be pretty common, I think. Anyway, I don't really know. I mean, we used a lot of it. I mean, we trucked it. We used it in the trains and stuff for a long time. We smelted a long time with it. So anyway, but yeah, it's one of my giant, like, I'm rich. I'm so rich. But I mean, I said they could use it to build their country. So that's why Japan kind of owed me anyway, because it's like, well, yeah, I did give it to them kind of. I mean, well, not really. I mean, I wanted something out of it, and they did. I think they did give me something. I don't really know what though. Love. They gave me love. I don't respect. Anyway, though, but yeah, it's down there, and it was really old. So maybe they saved my life. I mean, that's one thing probably. So anyway, I really miss that side. I really miss my family. I miss all my people. I miss I miss Europe. I do. Somebody said that I wasn't gonna like America or wasn't gonna like it here, but anyway, I don't know. Just seemed like the next thing to do. When you get into these giant, huge projects, you just go from one thing to the next, and it just seemed like the next step is to come and do America. So. Anyway.